Congratulations in general on the Buffalo Bills and life.
It goes Buffalo Bills record life. That's probably my list of accomplishments.
Ghost Cult magazine interview series. We welcome in Joel from the end of everything, man. Congratulations on this new EP. Congratulations in general on the Buffalo Bills and life.
Thank you for all of those things. It goes Buffalo Bills record life. That's probably my list of accomplishments.
That's okay. Hey, man. Sports for a while was life for me. I think if you had asked 15-year-old me, the music and sports would have been neck and neck. It's a little different for me as I get a little older, but yeah, man. Killer album came out in December. Killer EP, right off the back of another EP you guys did just right before it.
Yeah.
So I like the productiveness, especially during these crazy times. So yeah, man, the very ominously title "Things Are About to Change," and it's a very, I love the aggression and the power of the record, but I think it's also a little bit of a deep record. You never know what you're going to get. There's so many varieties and flavors of hardcore, and so much good hardcore out there historically. But I really dug this album, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we really loved the whole process of it. We had a blast doing it, and um, we had a couple different titles in place for the record that we were kind of toying around with. And I was just chatting with the Ryan from War Against Records, and he was like, "Things are about to change." Sounds really good to me. Like it's a line from a song. It has a lot to do with the concept of the record. It has a lot to do with what's going on in this world. It's got a lot to do with what's going to be happening in this world. And I was like, yeah, it's really good. I didn't think about that deeply, but it makes a lot of sense. So we went with that.
Right. And I know that change is scary to people. And like in the Wayne's World sense, we fear change. But, change is also opportunity, and crisis is opportunity. And how you react to things that happen around you or to you says a lot about you. And, we can all learn from things. It's hard. Change, I like to say, is one of the hardest things for adults to do. But, some things force you into things. And
Yeah.
that's where you wind up.
Yeah. Even forced change can be good. So hopefully we as a people, we as a band, me as a person can come out better on the other side.
Indeed, indeed. So let's hear a little bit about the background of the end of everything and how you guys kind of came into being.
Yeah, so Scott, our guitar player, and I started jamming a couple of years ago, and we were messing around, and we wrote a couple songs, and they were pretty bad, so we just kind of stopped. And then I had moved away for about 2 years, and then came back, and he was like, "Let's start this band up," and I was like, "All right, cool." So we recorded a demo. So our first two demos is what was the This Means War digital EP. So our first demo was just him and I. So he played guitar and bass, I played drums and sang, and we recorded it at his house. And then we made CD copies of it, and we made tape copies of it, which was just the cover. And on the inside, I hand wrote, "Do you play drums or bass? Call us," and put our number in there and handed them out at shows. And nobody called, surprisingly. But Scott played in another band in Las Vegas called Unfair Fight, and the guitar player also was a drummer. He was like a jack of all trades kind of thing. So I was like, let's ask Chris if he wants to play drums in this band. And luckily enough, he said yes, and we were stoked because it's hard as older dudes in the scene to recruit band members that aren't half your age. And there's nothing wrong with being young in the hardcore scene. It's awesome. But if we were going to play in a band, we wanted to play with people that were on our wavelength, both musically and age wise, that it would make sense for all of us to be part of this cohesive unit. And Chris knew a guy who played bass. He's like, I got this guy named Artie. He plays bass. He's really good. He's awesome. Let's bring him in. And it was a little weird because Scott and I are both straight edge, and this dude came in for our first practice just reeking of booze, carrying like two tall boys. He's like, let's jam. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, 16-year-old, or 18-year-old straight edge me would have been like, no, get out of here, drunk. But I was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's, get a little bit of everything. And we jammed and had a great time. And um, we recorded the second EP, which was 2 songs, and one of the songs was written by our second guitar player who no longer is in the band. So he wrote the music and he wrote the lyrics. He wrote everything. So we just put the song together based upon his writing, and it was cool. And then another song we all kind of put bits and pieces together and came up with different lyrical ideas. So this EP, the Things Are About to Change, is our first full band EP where we were all involved in the musical writing process. We all had a say. We all discussed lyrical content, and I mean, people aren't gonna. Unfortunately, as from the singer, like you're not really gonna get me to change my lyrics too much if you don't like them. But I'm an easygoing person, so if you come to me and say like, "Hey, this is a bad lyric, change it," I'd be like, "Okay, cool," and I would. But for the most part, we all collectively, well, mostly Scott. Scott writes all the music, and then Chris and Artie come in with their 2 cents to kind of tweak it a little bit, and then I just have like a notepad just full of words and lyrics and listening to music and thinking they said something, and then I realized they said something else. But I thought, oh, that's a cool line, the one that I thought of. I'm going to write that, type it into my phone. I'll pull over on the side of the highway and type something into my phone, and I'll just scroll through this like huge notepad full of lyrical ideas and just kind of throw it all together. And that's what we get.
Right on. I know the word organic gets overused a lot, but it's cool when things kind of coalesce naturally over time, and that's what it
Yeah.
sounds like happened with you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on, right on. I wanted to talk about War Against Records for a second because a very cool label. I think kind of a little under the radar. We interviewed the Arson Choir not too long ago too. Love those guys,
Sweet band.
and yeah, it's a real fun label. They've got like a very cool, like you can tell the intention of the label by the bands they work with, like you guys and the Arson Choir and others. So how'd you get aligned with them?
So we recorded our first demo, and of course, I run like our social media, so I send it out to friends and family. I send it out to record labels, and I think, hey, what do you think about this? And you don't. I'm not asking you to sign us. I'm just asking you for input from a label, and we've talked to a couple different labels, and um, uh, my friend Travis, who I met when I was touring back in the day with Atreyu, he plays in another band called Fake Figures, and I saw that they were putting out a record, and the record itself like looked awesome, like totally cool looking record, cool sounds, cool production. And I was like, who's this label who's putting it out? And I was like, oh, let me just send this guy a Instagram message. So I sent him a message and I was like, yo, check out our band. And maybe like a month or two later, he just emails me back like, let's do something. And I was like, yeah, let's do something. So we were super stoked. And you know, really dig Pressure Cracks and Rot and the Arson Choir, and super stoked to be label mates with them. And um, we were super excited to work with Ryan and War Against. And so we'd got our first 2 EPs remixed and remastered and put out as This Means War through War Against Records. And we played a show in um, LA area, San Diego with Pressure Cracks, and we were like, first of all, this is awesome because the band is great, and we get to meet Ryan and we get to meet everybody from the band and perform and show him what we got. So we were a little nervous, I guess you could say, like, oh, this is like a big time showcase kind of thing. Like, we better not blow this. And we played, I think, one of our best shows. So I was super stoked. And Ryan was like, that was awesome. And the rest of the bands were there. We played with the Arson Choir. So we were super stoked. It was a really fun time. And then we started writing and recording this record. And it's interesting, this whole, I'll skip and just pretend like you asked me how the recording process went. um the recording process was interesting. So Chris, our drummer, and Scott, our guitar player, both have studios in their house. So when the lockdown hit and we were kind of stuck figuring out what the hell's going on, we decided we were going to be proactive and record pre-production demos of these 4 songs. So Chris just basically picked a time signature and tempo for each song, and just kind of recorded drums and then sent it to Scott, and Scott did guitar, and then Artie did bass, and then I came in and I did vocals, and we just kind of did it all separately. And it came out pretty good. Like, we were like really impressed with how it came out, just for being like messy demos that we were just kind of throwing together. But we were pretty spot on when we listened back with how we thought it was, we wanted it to come out. So we Chris had a bunch of his recording equipment he brought over to Scott's house. Scott had a bunch of recording equipment there, so we had as many mics and tracks and channels and preamps and everything we could possibly put into his house. And we put up, sound walls between the drums, and we did them all separately, so like everybody kind of like did their 6 feet distance with our masks on, just to be extra specially safe. And it came out really good. We were really surprised at how it came out, so we were pretty stoked. And then I have a friend who lives in Buffalo that I've played in a bunch of bands with, whose house also has a studio, and he is a wizard with the studio. So we sent him all the tracks. He mixed it down for us, and we were super stoked on that. And I have another friend who lives in Pittsburgh who I was talking to, and he was like, "Oh, I know a guy who's an awesome engineer. Like, I'll hook you guys up for him to master this record." And I was like, "All right, cool." So we started talking to this engineer, and I didn't know who the guy was, so I looked him up, and this guy's list of bands that he's worked with was just a mile long. So he'd recorded like the new Deep Purple record. He'd recorded like tons of like really big like country artists. He'd done some punk stuff like Anti-Flag. He did a little like everything. And so he mastered it and sent it back to us. We were super stoked on that. And like a week later, I saw that he was nominated for a Grammy for recording a song on the Frozen 2 soundtrack. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, Disney movies and the end of everything. Like, great. What a great mix of music. And
You had me at Deep Purple and Anti-Flag, dude.
yeah,
Those
what a mix of artists that he worked with, and we were super stoked. And it came out, I think it came out really good for what we wanted it to sound like. And yeah, Ryan took over from there, and we're greatly appreciative of everything that he does for us, and we hope everyone gets a chance to check it out.
Word, definitely. I got to get a hold of Ryan at some point and grab him for an interview. I love to hear about his story. But good on you guys. And yeah, man, it's interesting because I know that Vegas has kind of a, obviously it's the entertainment industry center beside the coasts and Chicago. And so I know there's kind of a lot of butt rock bands that make their base out of Vegas for whatever reason. But there is and has historically been a very good hardcore scene in the Southeast and the West, sort of not quite the coast, but, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico. So it's really cool that you're able to even just kind of put your band out from there at all.
Yeah, the Las Vegas scene is awesome. So we've had really big bands from here. Not talking about who's that really big band from here?
It could be a lot of them.
Not Wayne
14
Newton.
lives there, Five Finger Death Punch in this moment. But,
Yeah,
no offense, we cover some of those bands too.
yeah,
You have to, you kind of have to if you do what we do. But
yeah.
yeah, I much prefer.
Not the hardcore style, but
Nah.
in the
Well,
hardcore
Corey probably
vein,
could, he probably likes some punk rock. He's all right.
yeah, in the hardcore vein, Curl Up and Die came from here. Faded
Yes.
Gray, Folsom, really big band.
Mm.
And so those are the bands that kind of laid the groundwork for the scene that we have now. And Black Path Booking, Outlook Fanzine, Running in Place Records, they all have a hand in what's going on in the scene now. And there's a ton of bands here that are smaller local type bands that are getting bigger regionally. World Tension, Oversight, Dredge, tons of bands that we've played with. That the list is probably 10 to 15 bands long. And by not saying their names, I'm not saying anything negative about them. Every band from here is really good, and we have a little bit of everything from um, punk style to old school melodic hardcore to thrashy crossover hardcore to kind of crusty hardcore to whatever you consider our band to be, I guess, like mid 90s style hardcore to everything. And and I know, I'm not saying this in a negative way, the female fronted hardcore, which I know is not a genre in its own right, but we have hardcore band. There's this band called So Without that has a female singer and other members, and they're awesome in their own way too. So we just have tons of really good bands here. Every band that we've played with and that we've seen here locally are all really good. Like, even if I wasn't on a podcast and we were just talking shit, I wouldn't have anything negative to say about any of the bands in our town. It's a great scene right now.
Right on. I prefer women led to female fronted, but I appreciate your self check on that. Um,
Yes.
that's a pet. That's a pet. All right, something's going on here. Broken. Uh, yeah, it's a pet peeve of mine as a writer. When I see publicists do female fronted, it irritates me. But you're cool. And remember when you could name check like two bands and not make like 100 people mad at you?
Right. Yeah. Now we're like, wait, how come you didn't say anything about my band?
Right. I just brain farted, dude. It's not personal, I swear. Don't get offended. I want to roll it back for a second. I like that you mentioned that you reached out to Ryan initially as a DM on Instagram. And I do music industry marketing. I'm on two music industry podcasts myself, and I teach music marketing, and I'm a social media expert myself. So I love that this is a great lesson for other bands. Like, don't be afraid to shoot a DM to somebody. Those youngin' kids are not afraid to use social media, and us veteran guys also. You can't be shy about trying to put your band out there and put yourself out there to get anywhere at all. It's great to see you do that.
Yeah, I work in the marketing industry out here in Vegas, so I deal with a couple casinos. I work with a couple other industries when it comes to marketing and social media. So I felt like, hey, what's the worst that someone's going to say? No, I don't like your band or not interested. Cool, But in the same vein, as I send that out to labels and other bands and other media outlets, it's just more ears on our music, and that's what we want. That's the big thing that we want. We are well aware that we're older dudes with families and careers and everything else, and we're not going to become hate breed overnight. But we just want as many people to hear our music as possible, and uh, you know, social media is a great tool for that. And having music on Spotify playlists and people listening to us and all of that is what we want. That's the main thing is that we want is we want our music to be heard by as many people as possible.
Right on, right on. I love it. Definitely cool. You mentioned your families. Certainly, I hope you are all well. I hope none of you guys have been ill or stricken by this virus. None of your family members. This is a crazy time. And I know you mentioned. I don't know if you're still working or were working in the touring industry at all recently, but obviously, you guys have probably lost gigs. You lost tours. I don't know if you personally lost your livelihood as a result of this pandemic. I'm super sorry if you have. Hopefully, you guys are hanging in there during this time.
Yeah, I've retired from the world of touring with other bands, but I have a lot of friends still that have toured with bands and still do big bands, small bands, tour managing, booking agents, everything you could think of, and even people that play in bands that's their livelihood is their band, and touring is what makes them money and keeps them going. And I love those bands, to hear a band like Terror can't tour for a year, or Madball, or those type of bands. Like, it's heartbreaking because I know that we all see that some venues have closed down or had to come up with, GoFundMe's to stay afloat. And bands are doing the same thing. They're doing those repressing of our t-shirts, of our first shirts we ever made, and, putting out new records or different variants of the record. So I try to support as many friends bands and bands that I like, just to keep them afloat, because this is hard. I mean, this is hard for a lot of people.
Right on. I think Fit for an Autopsy did one gig of a huge tour they had booked and literally had to drive home with boxes and boxes of merch and all their gear. And they ended up doing an online sale, and the fans bailed them out and bought all that merch, which is amazing. And those guys are amazing. And Fit obviously has a long history in the hardcore scene, and those guys were all in hardcore bands. Beside Fit being a metal band now, sort of a metally metallic hardcore band, if you will. And yeah, man, it's been rough. It's been crazy. I don't know when it's gonna end. So I hope you guys are well and safe and keeping upright. Sounds like you have a job you can kind of do maybe remote and not in person. I heard that for a while Vegas was kind of close to reopening mostly. And I have seen pictures of people like it at the casinos even now because the money train don't stop. So
Right.
but hopefully everybody's safe or not ill. If they're not being safe, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, be safe. That's the smartest thing
Wear
to
a
do,
mask,
right?
though. Come on. We
Yeah.
can't get through this if you don't. But on the plus side, man, what do you guys have in store? Obviously, touring is out at the moment mostly, for the time being. What are you guys planning? Obviously this release is new, so I don't know if you guys have any other activities planned, a video or something. Hard to
Yeah,
do right now.
we had put out a video, right when the record was released, and it's amazing. So, I'll give you some, insider info. It came out awesome, and we recorded it so jank. We we recorded it at Scott's house in his garage, and we put up bed sheets in the corners so you couldn't see that it was a garage, and we put like a little just like a little like camera you can buy at Target that shoots in 4K on a table saw, and we just rolled it around the room and recorded a video. And we were like, this is going to be something, all right. And Ryan had a connection with a video guy, and it came out so good. Like, it's incredible, like, how good it came out. So we're super stoked, on how it came out. So we had that video come out, and we've had some people look at it, and it's awesome, and we'd love to start playing shows again. We'd love to start doing whatever world of normalcy we can get back to, whether that's, shows but you can't dance, or shows but there's a limited capacity, like whatever we want. I mean, we did do an Instagram live show back in June, at the very beginning of June, and it was fun. We had a blast. It's not the same though. Playing in front of a person pointing a phone at you is not the same as playing at a venue and seeing people, and being able to talk to them, and bro down and everything else. It's just, we're in a time where that's just not possible right now, and there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be different, when we get to go back to shows, when it comes to sharing gear, and singers sharing microphones, and I mean, there's a whole world that's going to be different. And the things that we've all done collectively that we've never thought anything different of. About, like, we were just talking with my daughter's birthday's coming up pretty soon, and blowing out candles used to be the normal, and kids like just spitting all over the cake when they're trying to blow out candles is was the norm. But like, you can't do that anymore. Everything is going to be different. We're going to have, every instrument's going to be sprayed down with Lysol in between bands. And so it's an interesting world that we're going to be going back into. But hardcore as a whole has always persevered when it comes to scenes not doing well, or getting, the ebbs and flows of the industry and the music and the scene and the venues. So we'll still come through strong, and we'll keep going, and the band will keep doing things. And we've toyed around with the idea of doing a covers EP, of just covering a couple of our favorite bands. And we've just been talking about it, and it's kind of in the very infancy stages, but we want to put out, like 3 or 4 songs of bands that helped form us into hardcore, and subsequently into this band.
Awesome, man. I would love to hear you guys do a bunch of covers. And congrats on your daughter. Maybe you guys can go with the sparkler and then doff it out yourself and nobody
Right.
blows on the cake.
Just everyone gets their own individual cake, and hers has a candle on it or something. I don't know
Cupcake,
what it's going to be.
cupcakes
Yeah,
work, man.
can't go wrong
Cupcakes.
with that.
A lot of business in a little frosty cream, buttercream cupcake. Anyway, all over the map. But I love hearing from you, man. This has been great. I want to give you back your day, but just for a last thing, I know we talked before we started the interview about your sort of early years in Buffalo and the hardcore scene. So of course, I have to ask, like, what is the craziest thing you have ever seen or craziest show you've ever been to at all, in the hardcore scene?
Wow. Um, that's a tough one. I guess most memorable I'll go with. I mean, I've seen crazy. Okay, two things, two stories. Best mosh call I've ever heard in my life. And I grew up in Buffalo, so I went to the school of Scott Vogel mosh calls. So I love a good mosh call. Hatebreed was playing in Buffalo at the Showplace Theater, and a fight broke out. And a majority of bands, when a fight breaks out, they stop the song. They say, "Everyone be cool, everyone chill out, take it outside, whatever that is." But no, Hatebreed said, "If you're gonna fight, fight to this." And played Smasher Enemies, and my head just exploded, and I was just like, "This is the best!" And the show was just insane. And then most memorable for me, it's weird. I grew up in Buffalo, which is 6 hours from New York City, and never went to CBGB's for a show. And I was on tour doing Warp Tour in like 2005 with Atreyu when they were doing the Save the CBGB shows. And a
Yep.
friend of mine was like, "Yo, let's go. If you guys play early, let's go over to CBGB's and see Gorilla Biscuits." And I was like,
Yes.
"Absolutely." And so luckily that day, it was just a luck of the draw that Atreyu, who I was guitar teching for, played early that day, like 12 o'clock. So set up, tear down, all that jazz, and everything else. Went to dinner or went to catering, and then got in the car and went to CBGB's and got to see Gorilla Biscuits play there. And it was like one of those like you know you know unreal, surreal life moments in music where I got to go into CBGB and got to see Gorilla Biscuits, and it was just awesome. And the show was over, people were filing out, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta do the quick rounds. Like, I gotta go into the bathroom. I gotta see this epic bathroom." And stood up on stage, and I looked at all the flyers and stickers and everything all over the walls, and I was just like, "This is like, you know, uh, this is just like the greatest place to be in." And it was such a surreal and awesome experience to be in CBGB and to be able to see a band as awesome as Gorilla Biscuits there, and just have an experience that was just can't be compared to anything else in when it comes to music.
That is amazing. That's near and dear to me. Gorilla Biscuits is my favorite hardcore band ever, and Walter is like my personal Jesus. So amazing, amazing stuff, man. And I know some New Yorkers, we might have taken CBs for granted. It's been gone a long time now, and I'm super bummed. I guess they have like a sort of museum-ish thing out there that they're talking about, but not the same. But I'm glad you got to experience that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Joel, man, thank you so much for hanging out today, sharing these stories. Best of luck. I hope everybody picks up, your new EP, and we look forward to whatever you guys do next, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Check out War Against Records, check out all the bands, check out The End of Everything, check out our video on YouTube, and check out Hardcore, and stay committed.